This podcast is not intended to provide any investment advice. The opinions expressed here by either the hosts or guests do not necessarily reflect the views of PSA, Collectors Holdings, or any of their affiliates. Any discussion of collectible values in the past or present is not a guarantee of future performance.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PSA Pod, the first episode of 2026. I'm your host, Ryan Green, and today's show is about 2026 in grading. We want to look at the grading landscape in 2026. A lot has happened. A lot has changed. But we figured we wanted to get with you and let you hear it straight from the source. As always, with me, Ryan Hoge. Ryan, good to have you back.
Yeah, great to be here. Excited to share some news and talk to the community. It's been a little while,
and a lot has changed on your end.
It has, yeah. So folks know me as the president of PSA, which I still am, but I'm also the president of the grading business unit at Collectors, and so we have multiple brands that we operate in the grading business unit. PSA obviously being the largest. We also operate PCGS, which is our coin grading business and banknote grading business. SGC is another card grading business that falls under my purview. And then most recently, Beckett.
Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of people have heard about, seen, digested the Beckett news by now. We're going to dive into some of that and what's ahead with that brand in 2026 and beyond. Again, though, the overall goal here is just to look ahead to 2026, what collectors should expect from card grading as we start the new year. So you have taken on a lot that's new. And like you said, you're overseeing all these brands now. There's a big picture to think about.
Yeah.
So just how are you approaching that in the new year?
We're going to focus today's podcast on talking about card grading in particular. So, but it's not just going to be PSA. We're going to talk about SGC. We're going to talk about Beckett, how I'm thinking about it, what we have in store. I think the key thing I want folks to realize, all three of those businesses operate independently. They have different grading standards. They have different grading teams. They do roll up under my business unit, but other than that, they're very independent and they run independently. They've got unique characteristics to each of the brands that customers love, which is why they gravitate towards them. Beckett with the black labels and the subgrades. I think SGC with its vintage prowess. And so that's things we love, things we want to embrace, and things we want to keep moving forward. But there's a lot of things, though, that I think we can kind of leverage and share across all the brands to make them all more effective, make the hobby safer. There's things that we do where we collaborate around brand protection, anti-fraud measures. We've been doing that for a couple of years now with SGC and PSA. We're extending that to Beckett now. It's good practice for the different grading companies to share information, whether it's on bad actors or it's counterfeits and things that we're seeing, to alert one another so that we can be on the lookout in providing the best service and kind of looking out for the bad guys that are always looking to take advantage. So that's one. Another one is around technology. I think folks have seen it over the last 5 years since we've kind of been running PSA in Collectors universe. We've made a major investment in technology, both on how we work, but then also customer facing things. There's the new PSA mobile app. We've completely overhauled our submission experience, web experience. That's something where there's some scale, there's knowledge. We can extend it to the other grading brands, so they can be more efficient. They can have some innovations, and so that's a theme that's going to continue to go. We're going to look at areas where there can be some kind of synergies there, where stuff can be leveraged across the board. Then there's some unique things I think when we look at each of the brands too that we can talk a little bit more about what we're going to be doing. But I think the main, if I had to summarize kind of like what the themes are for 2026 across all three brands, it's about increasing capacity. All three of the businesses are getting more units than they can handle right now. So good problem, but not great from a customer experience perspective. So we're going to talk about that. It means turnaround times are slower than we want them to be. We're going to talk about consistency. We want to make sure that we've got the most accurate and consistent grading happening in the industry. So for each of the brands, they have their own unique grading scale and criteria that they look at. We want it to be accurate. We want it to be consistent, especially as we're scaling, as we're bringing on new graders in existing facilities, as we're expanding to new locations. That's something that's important to us. So we don't want to go so fast where those things suffer. And then the last piece is just improving the overall kind of collector experience. And a lot of that comes back to the service reliability and speed. And so by being faster with turnaround times, we think that's at the core. And then once we get that right, we earn the right to do other things that are kind of delightful that people like. So I don't want people to feel like we're missing the real memo here. Like, we know it's about turnaround times. That's the thing people care most about. And so we're laser focused on improving that this year.
Two key things you hit on there, essentially predictability for customers, knowing what to expect, how important that is. And that sort of goes hand in hand with people having the trust in the experience, in the brands, in the companies, in what they're doing when they send their valued collectibles to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are in the trust business.
So as we look at the brands individually, let's start with SGC.
Yes. Yeah. No, SGC, awesome brand, awesome team. They operate out of a single location in Boca Raton, Florida. So that business went through a bit of a transition middle of last year. And what we've seen since that time is vintage cards are starting to make up more of the overall mix that's coming in, which is interesting. And it makes sense given SGC's heritage going all the way back to 1998, known for being experts in the vintage categories. So the challenge, though, with vintage compared to, say, ultramodern or TCG, takes a little bit longer to grade. A lot more nuance that goes into it.
Yeah.
Eye appeal becomes like a major factor in how a final grade is determined. So it's slowing down throughput across the board. And so you're seeing turnaround times push out further than I think what customers have been used to with SGC, where they've been lightning fast for many years. I think currently SGC is running a little over 30 business days on kind of the entry-level service tier that they have, which is $15. The team's planning to staff up. I mean, we're expanding the facility. We're taking on additional office space. We're adding personnel. We're adding technology. So I would anticipate we're going to grow that capacity and get turnaround times reduced as we get into 2026. It's not going to happen immediately, but I think as we get a little bit closer into Q2 and into the summer, you should start to see faster turnaround times. Because I think the SGC team really prides itself on being some of the fastest graders in the business, and they like to differentiate the service offering around that. And so that's going to be a focus for this year, going forward. So the facility expansion will be great. They'll be able to add some more people. And we really like the focus of the SGC brand and where they're really doubling down on vintage. We think it's great.
Okay, so that's what's ahead in 2026 for SGC. Now let's shift over and talk about Beckett some.
Yeah, Beckett. It's been about a month since collectors announced that we acquired Beckett. I've been spending a lot of time with the team, getting to know them. Fun fact, I grew up in Plano, Texas. My parents still live there. That's where Beckett's HQ is. It's about 8 miles from my parents' house, which is fun. So it gives me more of a reason to, when I'm able to go visit the team there, I can pop in and see my parents or stay the night at their house. And so they're enjoying that. But we're in the early days. We're learning about the team. Awesome team. How the operation works. They've got a great facility, a big facility in Plano with a lot of space. And what we're really trying to figure out is like what's working well, what could be refined, and how can we deliver a better experience for collectors and really revitalize the Beckett brand. I think there's a lot of appreciation, at least from my standpoint, around the Beckett brand. It's one that I grew up with as a kid growing up.
Same.
Late 80s, early 90s when I was a collector, and especially growing up in the Dallas area where Beckett was born.
Yeah.
Beckett's old HQ used to be on the Dallas Tollway, and I would drive by it all the time, whether I was going with my parents to a Mavericks game or even when I was working as a teenager. I was working at CompUSA in Addison, Texas, and I would drive by the Beckett HQ every day on my way to work. And so it holds a special place, in my heart. And I think we we're very mindful about being the stewards of that brand moving forward. And but I'm liking what we're learning. I think the team's starting to get excited that they're going to get a level of investment that maybe they haven't had the last few years. And so we've got some early ideas. I know people are very anxious to hear what we have in store. And so I wanted to, maybe get in and share a couple nuggets. I mean, again, it's been a month. Like nothing's concrete. We're still figuring some things out. But one of the things that we're looking at, and by the way, this one that I'm going to talk about here, I think we're also planning to do it with SGC too. So it's not just a Beckett thing. One of the things that we think is really exciting is actually being able to make it easier for Beckett grading customers to sell their cards. A lot of people grade with the intent to sell. And so we've got a great way to sell at PSA with our partnership with eBay and the PSA Vault. So we're going to work to make it easy for Beckett grading customers to have their cards go to the vault where they have the option to sell on eBay, which reduces time, reduces shipments, makes it super easy. We think that's a great customer benefit. And like I said, we're working on doing the exact same thing at SGC too. The PSA Vault supports all the major grading brands today. And so this feels like a no-brainer for us to put this as an option for customers that want to participate in it. So that's one thing that we're working on. Don't have timelines to share on any of this stuff, but I'm at least disclosing what we're doing so people can be aware. The next thing that we're working on is a little bit of kind of visual and brand updates for Beckett, extending to the labels on the BGS slabs. And I know there was a fiasco. I don't know how many years ago this was, but there was some announced stuff, and then the Beckett team walked stuff back. This is not going to be at that level. I think the team's got a really thoughtful approach on some visual updates to the label to allow better information density, layouts, aligning things to a grid, looking at some font updates. I really like what the team's come up with. It looks great. Changes to how maybe the autograph grade is displayed and represented. And so those should be rolling out early this year. We're kind of in the final stages of making some decisions around that. Subgrades aren't going anywhere.
That's very important to note.
Yeah. Grading standards aren't changing. It's really a visual update. And I think you're going to see from a branding perspective around Beckett, a little bit more of a throwback to kind of some historical brand elements there from where they are now. Next thing that we're digging into and working on is adding imaging. So this has been a big investment at PSA in the 5 years that I've been here. We image at PSA every card pre and post grading. It helps us run more efficient. It allows us to identify cards easier. It allows us, in the case of where maybe something goes wrong and there could be potential damage that happens while it's in production at our facility, we can refer back to those images to see, okay, did this damage exist when it got to us, or compared to what we're seeing later. And then the post-grading images are awesome if you're wanting to just kind of show off your collection or you want to list something for sale. So there's a lot of benefits there with the imaging. This is something that we're going to bring to Beckett. There's very little imaging that's happening there today. And so we're going to make it a robust part of the overall operation and also customer benefits. And so work is underway to figure out how we're going to get that thing up to scale. But I think it's going to be awesome for Beckett customers. They're going to really like that with their BGS orders. And to me, it feels like a table stakes thing that we just have to do.
It was such a game changer here at PSA when that was introduced for every card that now you forget what it was like before that existed.
Yeah.
And how much more utility that does give collectors as, orders pop in their accounts, et cetera. So having that across the board is a pretty big unlock.
Yeah, no, it's massive. And, it was interesting at the time. We were so intimidated about the scale that we'd have to get it at and, and the costs associated with it, but we've pulled it off. And
yes.
It's awesome. And I can't imagine, life without it now. So we're excited to do that. Last thing I wanted to mention was around some of the cross-brand collaboration. I talked about the kind of anti-fraud brand protection stuff. That work is already underway, where you've got the teams across all three grading brands sharing knowledge about, counterfeits, backdoored copies, bad actors out there that are maybe trying to circumvent certain checks and policies that we have in place to slip things through. This is great to see. We've seen the benefits on the SGC side. Now we're extending that to Beckett, so that's awesome. We're also working on some additional new capabilities around pop report. I guess hygiene is probably the right way to describe it. So we know a lot of customers will cross over cards to different grading companies, and they do it oftentimes. They'll crack a card out of a case themselves, and somebody might crack out a PSA card to submit it to Beckett,
and vice versa.
And same with SGC. Those labels, we don't know oftentimes that the card has been cracked out. And so you might see, and the easiest way to look at this is when you look up, like, say, serial numbered cards, it might be out of 50, and you look across all the grading brands, and all of a sudden you see there's been, 90 of them graded. And it's like, well, wait a second, there's only 50 of these that exist. It's annoying for collectors. Like, we would much rather have an accurate view of the world. We're not going to be able to get fully there, but what we are going to do is roll out a program to make it really easy for collectors of any of the grading brands operating under the collector's umbrella to be able to send in their loose labels, or as we call them on the PSA side, flips, that go inside the holders if they are cracking things out to submit again, where that we can then get those removed from the appropriate population reports and kind of deactivate those certificates, so we have better hygiene with each of the SGC, Beckett, and PSA pop reports. And so that's a program that we're going to roll out, because right now we don't make it easy. I think people kind of are like, what should I do with these things? Yeah. We're going to put it out there front and center. We'll have probably a central mailing address. People could just drop those in an envelope. And yeah, we are going to need the physical labels because the AI stuff is crazy. Like, I've been seeing stuff this week about people, like, the latest eBay scam is people doing, like, oh, your card got damaged to me, and it's like AI showing a completely shattered slab or something over the image. So yeah, we need the physical thing so we can confirm that it is a real label, that it's not a counterfeit label, and we're not deactivating something that
that is still out in circulation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I think that'll be great for the hobby. It's a thing that's been needed, and now that we've kind of got the ability to ensure that coordination across the brands, I think it'll be great, and it's something that we want to roll out this year.
That's a lot for Beckett. But it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't even been a month yet. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of great things in store. We've got a new leader of the business down there named Colin Hudson, who reports directly to me in the office there in Plano, Texas, 5 days a week, which is awesome. He's been a part of Collectors now for about 3.5 years. Really excited to have him there, kind of leading the charge and getting to know the team. But yeah, we're excited for the future of Beckett, and we think there's great things ahead.
And everything lying ahead that you laid out is very collector focused, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I want to make sure people really hear that. We had an announcement with some statements when the acquisition was announced, but like, we're learning more. I want to share more with the community as we dig in.
So now let's shift over to PSA and what's happening in this end of the overall business. And a big focus is the expansion of the footprint globally.
Yeah,
we've shared a lot of news about this mid to late 2025. But now a lot of the wheels are starting to turn on this.
Yeah, and just to recap, some people might have missed this. It's been a few months since we've done the podcast. I think we were last out here at the end of September, so we kind of didn't talk in all of Q4. Yet there was a lot of news that kind of came out in Q4. So folks already know internationally that we operate our Tokyo, Japan office. That more than doubled, in people and output this year compared to 24. Like, massive growth year. Awesome for the business, awesome for customers in Asia. And like, I couldn't be happier with how that operation's going. We kind of, it's a proof point for what could potentially happen in a market when you open a local grading facility, and it makes it easier and reduces barriers for customers. So we're taking that same model and we're doing a European grading operation. It's going to be in Frankfurt, Germany. It will be opening in 26. It's going to be in the middle to second half of 26. I don't have a firm date, but we've started construction, leases signed. We've been hiring people, and like, we're doing things. It will not be before July, but it will definitely be before the end of the year. So sometime in the second half of the year is when that thing will be live, which I'm really, really excited about. It's going to be a pretty large facility. We'll have a fairly large team hired up out there eventually when we're kind of at full capacity, probably a couple hundred people. Which is going to be awesome. And it's going to serve greater Europe as well as UK. And so on the UK front, one of the things that we announced is we're going to be opening a receiving center. So this is similar to what we launched in Toronto in October. That was a Q4 announcement. So just to recap that. So we have a receiving center. And what that means is you don't have full-blown grading, but you're providing a facility where customers can submit their orders directly to, so they don't have to navigate customs and cross-border stuff. And with today's tariff environment, it's really gnarly. So customers have a tailored mobile experience, a tailored web experience that's in their local currency, local language. And when they create their submission, it's got the local shipping address. Mm-hmm. So in the case of Canada, it's in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. And then we're going to have a London facility. And so what ends up happening at these receiving centers, the orders get shipped in, they get opened, they get imaged. So they kind of go through what we call the receiving process. And then they get shipped to one of our grading facilities in the U.S. currently for final, grading, sealing, but then they go back to the receiving center for final shipment back out to the customer. So it stays kind of within the PSA network, which makes the handling of potential tariffs and all of that stuff a lot easier because it's kind of moving within our network and it alleviates that burden from customers. So we're taking that same model that we have with Toronto, which has been off to a great success. We're seeing thousands of cards a day coming in from Canadian customers, specifically going into that center, which is awesome. We're going to do the same thing in the UK. Their grading facility for most of the cards will end up being in Frankfurt. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to have to ship directly there. We'll handle it. It's going to stay in Europe, which will be great. Just from a timing perspective, it's going to be faster. There might be certain orders that we choose to send to the U.S. if the expertise happens to be in the U.S. We're probably going to have more vintage expertise in the U.S. So let's say it's some vintage soccer stickers or some other card like that might end up coming to the U.S.
A lot of those rare pre-war pieces that you see just surface.
But I would say the vast majority of the modern, ultra modern, whether it's sports or non-sports and TCG, that'll get handled out of the Germany grading facility. So we're really excited about those. Those are both going to be coming online in the second half of this year. Hiring a lot of folks. It's just going to be great for European customers, hoping to replicate a lot of the success we've seen in Japan. We also announced that we have a Hong Kong receiving center that opened up. It's not as quite tech-enabled as we have the one in Canada. It's working currently with certain dealers in Asia. They can work through our Hong Kong sub-center, and then those units go to our Japan grading facility, or some of them will make their way to the U.S. But that's making it easier for certain customers in Asia to be able to submit directly to us. So, it's giving us more capacity. So what that does is it allows us to not have those units come to the U.S., freeing up more of the bandwidth here to work on customer orders here, since the topic of more demand than we have capacity. So this helps with the capacity thing. It makes it easier for customers in those markets to submit, lower cost for them from a shipping standpoint, just less cross-border friction. So in general, it's a win-win. So we're going to continue to do this not only in 26, but I think 27, we have more plans, and we'll keep going on that front.
You touched on opening up some capacity here in the U.S. with a lot of this and bandwidth and being able to stay on top of things, especially with turnaround times. That was another piece that kind of happened in Q4 that we didn't have a chance to talk about here on the show, but I know you want to dive in there.
Yeah. So this is our most important topic, I think. It's the one customers care most about. And it's honestly the one that we have not been doing a great job of. Starting kind of at the beginning of 25, kind of end of 24, we noticed a pretty significant uptick in demand for our grading services. It was kind of across the board, but it was heavily led by an increase in Pokemon demand. That's where we just started seeing a lot of customer activity, both international as well as domestic. And we had to adjust course really early in 25. We, like any large company, we do annual planning. There's certain assumptions that go in as far as, this is what we think we're going to do from a volume perspective. We're going to need this amount of capacity to be able to serve it. These are the types of demand generation and marketing programs that we're going to run, or sales programs we're going to run to generate that demand. And in 25, we had to throw that whole plan out the window in February. And so we came up with a new plan that honestly, it was little to no marketing because we were getting so much demand. And then we pulled forward a lot of our capacity expansion plans to be able to keep up up with the demand coming in from customers. So we ended the year on a high note. I think we increased capacity for PSA by about 25% compared to 24, which is awesome. When you're a big business like we are, growing capacity by that much is pretty impressive and hard to do, because we also have a fairly rigorous training process for our graders. It's multi-month. There's a lot of people that don't make it through the entire process.
It's not something you can cut corners on either.
No, you can't. I mean, we want to keep the accuracy in how we work high. I mean, again, going back to the earlier comment about trust, we want customers to have trust in our brand and know that they're getting the best product. And so that's something we didn't want to cut corners on. And so it limits our ability to go as fast as maybe I think customers would like to see. Because, I read the comments, I get messages, from customers that, they can't believe that we, how can we run a business like this? How can we be this far behind? How does it take so many months to get something back? It's hard. It's not like, it's just a transactional thing where you can staff up immediately, like in 1 week, and bring in thousands of people to be able to do this job. It takes months and months and months to be able to scale it the right way. And our operation is fairly complex. I mean, I don't think people realize we have north of 3,000 employees now. We're operating internationally in, at least 8 locations. I mean, it's a big, complex business. And even inside of our core grading facilities, there's like 9 discrete steps that things go through. It's not like the mail comes in and a grader, opens the package and grades your cards and seals them themselves. Like it's almost like a factory. Like you can imagine if we're manufacturing automobiles or something like that, where you have certain things that might feel like an assembly line part. You have other areas like the research department where they're having to go super deep on things. You've got all the imaging stations. So there's a lot that happens. So it's a lot more complex than I think people think. And especially when you're doing it at scale. And, in some days now we're doing 100,000 cards a day. On working days. So, across all of our grading locations. So like, that's a lot. And just to remind people, I think like if you go back 5 years ago when we acquired the company and started this kind of investment, in growing the business, I think we were doing 15,000 cards a day. So we've gone from 15,000 to 100,000 in 5 years. So,
and keep in mind that was 15,000 at really the height of a backlog.
Yeah. So I feel good about the progress that we've made. And I think, it's been impressive, but it's not enough. And so we're still investing, we're still scaling. And so I wanted to just talk about a couple things here. So in November, one of the things that we changed was something that bothered me for a little while, because it was kind of confusing. And this was a little bit of a kind of a legacy carryover thing that's always, been how PSA did things, was when the clock started, so to speak, on the estimated turnaround times. And I think some folks understood this. A lot of folks did not. But the old model, in the process that I was just talking about, how we've got all these multiple steps, packages would get delivered to us. And once they get delivered, the next step is the box that you shipped your cards in physically gets opened by somebody in our receiving team. They do an inventory count of the cards, and then your cards get ingested. They actually get imaged, labels applied, and then they have like their unique cert identifier on those, so that once, if and when they get encapsulated, that's going to be the cert identifier, and it kind of starts the process. That's when the clock used to start. And it would be a little confusing because people would say, hey, you've had my package for a week or 2 weeks, or in the case of where we've been, the last few months, my package has been with you guys for a month or 6 weeks or 7 weeks. And it would create, insecurity, confusion, felt like it wasn't the right way to kind of advertise that. And so we made a change in November to now our estimated turnaround times count when your package is delivered to our facilities. Now, these packages are secure. They're like securely received. They're stored in our facility. They're under camera. Like there's no concern, but that state of,
there's that ambiguity for customers of not knowing where something is physically or being able to see.
Right. And I think people could also probably point and say, oh, PSA, you can like game the system. You can like slow things down there to kind of manage certain things. We didn't want to do that. We didn't want perceptions of that happening at all. So the new definition is the clock starts when your package is delivered. I think that makes the most sense to people. And so it's kind of like we're measuring estimated turnaround time from when it's here to when it leaves, whether it's shipping back to you or shipping to the vault or being sold, on eBay or whatnot. That's the clock. And
it's a lot cleaner. Takes the asterisk out of it.
Yeah. So we ended up extending or having new dates, obviously, to reflect a little bit of the time that it takes to receive the mail. So there is still that step of, hey, we have more mail than we can open every day. And so we have to account for that. But all those estimated dates reflect the current state of that. And I'll give an update on kind of like the current state of where we are with different service levels. So on the good news front, expedited services, those are getting ingested, meaning from package delivery to the order has been received, typically in the 2 to 3 day window, which is great. That's kind of where we want that to be. Yeah. We have seen an uptick though in demand for expedited services. And when I say expedited, I mean value plus and higher beyond our normal value in our bulk service levels. And so those have gotten in a healthier spot. If you rewind the clock 2 months ago, we were closer to 15 to 20 business days for some of those. And that's way too long. So I'm proud of the team for, really focusing and getting that dialed in, and they're working really hard to maintain those levels. What still isn't great though is the bulk and the value levels. That's what most people submit at. That's what people, really pay attention to, whether it's the price of those levels to the estimated turnaround times. So the updated estimated turnaround times for the bulk levels is at 95 business days right now. It's currently taking us 35 to 40 days to go from package delivery to the orders received. And, honestly, that's an unacceptable level. Full stop. No excuses there. It's just the volume is higher than we can handle. We've prioritized the expedited levels, which I think was the right call. Customers are paying for a faster service, so let's get those things done first. But it's not where we want to be, and so we're not stopping there. And so the target that I've given the team, and so for customers to also be aware of this, is we don't want to have the bulk service levels exceed 10 days. That's the target that we're trying to get to. So that's two calendar weeks for folks to keep in mind. That's the
10
max.
Business days.
Yeah, it's 10 business days. So that's the max that I ever want this to get to. And historically, we've had it lower. If you rewind the clock maybe a year and a half ago, we've had it as little as probably 4 or 5 days. Yeah. So we're working hard to get those dates back in, but that's where we are today, where we want to go. This isn't going to get fixed overnight. This is going to take multiple months. We're working hard to get there. And I just appreciate everybody's patience, and just know that our heads aren't in the sand. We're very, very aware of this. And we're doing everything we can to improve those times so we can get back to even faster turnaround times for customers.
You teased to some of this earlier, but when talking about solving a problem such as shrinking that clock and the time it takes from packages arrived on site to unboxed, et cetera, investment in technology, AI, automation plays a pretty big role in that.
Yeah.
So peel the curtain back a little bit and tell us, what's happening on that front in 2026.
Yeah. So we talked about the imaging work that we've done. Mm-hmm. That was a big investment for the last several years. We've scaled that. It enables all sorts of other great capabilities to improve efficiency, accuracy, and just kind of how we work. We've got certain machinery like robotics that can do things that maybe would take 5 or 6 humans to do. We can now have a machine operated by 1 or 2 humans. Mm-hmm. And, it can be more efficient, whether that's, imaging and stickering, so we can get things through faster on the receiving end, to on the sealing side. It could be doing welding and imaging kind of at the end of the grading process. And so we've got a lot of those things. And then there's a bunch of stuff in between that we've been investing in. And so we are not stopping. We're continuing to invest. And I think customers probably won't see this from a customer facing perspective. We've done a lot of customer facing stuff the last couple of years, whether it's the new mobile app, to, all these other jazzy features kind of on the web. I think we've done a lot of cool innovation there. The team is much more focused on internally how we work in 2026. And so expect this to manifest in, faster turnaround times. I think that's probably going to be the thing that people are going to see, where the benefits really show up here. And so we're leveraging things in a much heavier way than we have before to make the entire grading process, all of those steps that I've talked about, whether it's the intake, the research, the actual grading part, imaging, different quality checks, we're going to be leveraging AI and other technology enabling solutions to improve how we work and make us more accurate than we have. And just to be clear, like, we're still human-led. Like, this is a human-led grading business, but where the technology assists. But I think we're going to be seeing the tech play a much bigger role than we have the last 4 or 5 years. And again, it's all in the spirit of accuracy and efficiency, which manifests for customers with faster turnaround times. And then also, longer term down the road, when we have more capacity, we can lower prices, we can run promotions and things like that. There's a lot of benefits that come with it. And so that's the spirit behind all of these investments. And so I'm pumped for the team to get these delivered, get the learning, start scaling certain things. And so hopefully customers will be seeing it show up in faster service. I mean, that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Probably faster service, people feeling better about the accuracy of their grades. That's what we're going to be paying attention to.
Then lastly, this is a really fun one because this is something that we get a lot of questions about from some of the, I would say, most loyal PSA customers, longtime collectors who are very focused in what they do. And that's on the front of the PSA Set Registry, which I know you are a big user of as well.
Yeah.
Myself too. So give a little update on what lies ahead for the Set Registry.
Yeah. So I just spent the last 15 minutes or really kind of this whole podcast talking about how it's all about the infrastructure and how we work. And that's where the tech investment's going to go. Less sizzle on the customer facing stuff. The one exception to that is we're finally revamping the Set Registry. Mm-hmm. This is one of the last kind of legacy parts of PSA that we haven't really touched the technology that much in the 5 years that I've been here. And it wasn't because we didn't care. It was just there were so many other more pressing things that we needed to tackle first. Mm-hmm. So now we're finally working on our overhaul of the Set Registry. We love it. I love the Set Registry. I mean, this was one of the things when I got back into collecting 15 years ago. This was one of the things that got me hooked is I, went and did the Nolan Ryan basic tops run from, 68 to, 93, 94?
93, 94, somewhere around there.
And it was fun. It was awesome. And I love it. But for folks that use it, they've probably noticed major performance issues, especially if you have a large collection and you're making lots of changes.
Yeah.
The database that kind of powers all of this is pretty fragile. Can stall out. You'll get errors. The UX is super dated, not intuitive, doesn't look like the other parts of PSA. And so we're fixing that. So the stuff that we're doing, we're building a scalable, modern backend that is easier for the team to administer, whether it's adding new sets, having more self-serve capabilities, but also scaling to support tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of more users on it. Along with that, the infrastructure, the servers that are powering it, those are also going to be, cloud-based, and again, scalable, performant, where it's going to be lightning fast. You're not going to have things time out. It's not going to take, 30 seconds for an ad to your collection or for a set to complete. Everything's going to be blazing fast on what customers really expect from kind of a modern technology-enabled company. And then we're going to completely overhaul the UX. You're going to have a modern UX. It's going to feel like it belongs with the current PSA web experience, the mobile experience. It's going to feel first class. It's not going to feel like some left behind thing. I'm just excited that we're working on it. I've actually got a review with the team today. I do biweekly reviews to see, how they're doing, giving feedback on designs. This is probably not going to fully roll out this year, but we'll start sharing some things publicly. I would anticipate kind of at the National in July, we'll have more to share and kind of give a preview of what to expect, maybe have some demos and things like that.
Good timing.
Yeah. But it's in the works. And so I'm excited about it. I know the team working on it is excited about it. It's just something that we've, a lot of people have asked, when are you going to get to it? When are you going to get to it? We're getting to it. This is the year we're working on it. And, I'm excited.
So we've obviously covered a lot here today on a lot of fronts. Give kind of your overall blanket statement here on, we talked about takeaways from 2025 and mostly focus on looking ahead at 2026. What's your overarching blanket message? Just kind of talking about the state of grading, especially at this company as we dive into 2026.
Yeah. I mean, again, and this is speaking not just for PSA, it's for all three of the card grading brands that I oversee. The message is pretty simple. We want to set clear expectations. We're focused on delivering faster turnaround times across the board with all three brands. We want to have better tools for not only how collectors work, but how we work and how the operations scale to support, this crazy demand that we're seeing. And then we want each of the brands to really stay true to what collectors love and value about each of them. And so, I know we're not going to get everything totally perfect. We'll make some mistakes. But I'm here to be very transparent. My mailbox is open. If people have things that they like, don't like, want to light me up about something, want to compliment me on something for the team, great, send that my way. But we're going to keep improving, keep investing, keep listening. But I'm excited. We got a great team. We got great plans in store. And so I'm ready to, get going.
Big year ahead, a lot on your plate. So we appreciate you taking the time today to do just this and really give our customers and collectors and everyone an update on the priorities and that, going into 2026 and letting everybody know that we do listen and we are listening to what customers are saying to us and we're working to improve the things that need improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be back soon.
Ryan Hoge, thank you for joining us here on the PSA Pod. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.